When you open a Jane Austen novel, you'll come across a term that appears again and again, the torn. And yes, according to my research, it's spelled T-O-N but said as torn. Characters constantly worry about their standing among the fashionable elite. But what exactly was the torn? Here's the simple answer. The torn was Regency England's invisible social club with absolute power over the upper classes. It determined who you could marry, where you could go, and what you could wear. It even decided whether your daughters had any marriage prospects at all. It was a system of hierarchy and reputation, maintained entirely by subtlety, gossip, and the threat of social exile. The word ton itself comes from the French phrase le bon ton, which literally means the good style or good form. But unlike a formal club, you couldn't just pay a membership fee. Belonging to the ton required a constant performance. You had to demonstrate the right manners, taste, and deportment at all times. This idea of the ton became especially important during the Regency era. By the early 1800s, the term described a tiny fraction of England's population, perhaps only 1 or 2%, that moved in the most exclusive circles. In reality, this meant a few thousand people held social and cultural power over millions. So how did you get in? Well, entry into the ton required 3 things, though not necessarily in equal measure. Birth was the most reliable pathway. Being born into an aristocratic family gave you the strongest claim to admission. But birth alone wasn't enough. An aristocrat who lacked grace, style, or wit could still find themselves socially sidelined. Wealth was also essential. You needed money for a fashionable London townhouse, servants, tailored clothes, a carriage, balls, and theatre tickets. Yet wealth alone couldn't buy your way in. The newly rich merchant class faced closed doors because the ton considered anyone who had actually worked for their wealth to be fundamentally, and perhaps ironically, vulgar. The real wildcard was bon ton itself, that elusive quality of style, taste, and grace that could, under extraordinary circumstances, transcend birth. And Beau Brummel embodied this perfectly. Born to a government clerk, Brummel became the arbiter of men's fashion through sheer personality, impeccable taste, and a powerful friendship with the Prince of Wales. He revolutionized masculine style by championing simplicity. Dark coats, pristine white cravats, and perfectly tailored trousers. Dukes sought his opinion on their wardrobes. Yet when the Prince Regent withdrew his favor, Brummel's position dissolved overnight. He fled to France and died in a French asylum, his glittering reputation utterly forgotten. The lesson was stark. Style and wit could get you in, but it was all fragile and dependent on the whims of the powerful. The ton maintained its exclusivity through an intricate system of unwritten rules. For example, morning calls, which were actually made in the afternoon, formed the social foundation. If someone wasn't home, you left a calling card, a small printed card with your name and address, not unlike a business card today. This system cleverly established a pecking order while maintaining a fiction of intimacy. And of course, dress was non-negotiable. There were different gowns for every occasion. Day dresses with long sleeves for morning calls, walking dresses with bonnets for outdoor promenades, and evening gowns with bare arms for formal events. Wearing the same dress to more than one major event in a single season was a subtle admission of financial strain. Being seen was everything. During the season, you simply had to be seen driving through Hyde Park during the promenade hour to be considered part of the fashionable world. A lady never drove unaccompanied and was forbidden from certain London streets entirely, particularly those associated with gentlemen's clubs. Chaperonage was absolute. An unmarried woman could never be alone with a gentleman unless they were related or engaged. Being found alone together meant she would be considered ruined, her reputation destroyed, whether the accusation was true or not. A woman's virginity was seen as family property, affecting even her siblings' marriage prospects. Perhaps nothing crystallized these rules more than Almack's assembly rooms. This exclusive venue was governed by the lady patronesses, 6 or 7 of the most powerful women in England. To attend a ball, you needed a voucher that was only offered if the patronesses approved. Being offered one was a public acknowledgement that you were in. Being rejected was devastating. But for all its prestige, balls at Almack's were surprisingly austere. There was only weak tea and lemonade, with strict dancing rules and an even stricter admittance policy. The doors were shut at 11 o'clock on the dot. Everything was designed to facilitate suitable marriages while preventing any hint of scandal. To understand the power and peril of the Torn, let's look at two of its most powerful figures. First, Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire. As the most famous society figure of her era, she wielded extraordinary influence within the Torn, yet her gambling addiction and political campaigning made her relentlessly scrutinized. Satirical prints falsely depicted her kissing men for votes, damaging her reputation. The second key figure, and arguably the center of the Torn's universe, was the Prince Regent, later George IV. As the era's most influential cultural figure, his patronage could make or break careers, essentially defining who was in and who was out. Yet, even he wasn't immune to public opinion and was mocked by the press for his debts and extravagance. These real-world pressures are precisely what Jane Austen captured in her novels, which serve as a perfect guide to the Torn's anxieties. In Pride and Prejudice, for instance, Elizabeth Bennet is disadvantaged because her family is not fashionable, and her mother's loud desperation is the very vulgarity the Torn despised. Similarly, in Emma, the protagonist's snobbish disdain for those below her rank illustrates the rigid class consciousness that was central to the Torn's worldview. And in Persuasion, Anne Elliot's family has fallen from grace due to financial difficulties. Her marriage to Captain Wentworth, a man who rose through his own efforts, represents a triumph of genuine merit over mere rank and fashion. So what happened to this rigid system? Inevitably, the strict world of the Torn began to weaken in the 1820s and 30s. The rise of the industrial middle class and changing social attitudes made its hierarchies feel increasingly outdated. Almack's assembly rooms, once the center of the universe, finally closed its doors in 1863. But the Torn's legacy endured. Our modern fascination with social hierarchies, with who gets inside the inner circle and who remains outside, is a direct echo of the world it created. So while the Torn itself is gone, it shaped everything about how Jane Austen's characters navigated their world. Understanding it transforms her novels from simple romantic tales into profound explorations of how individuals negotiate power and pursue happiness within a world of crushing constraints. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy exploring Austen's world and the Regency way, subscribe and join me for the next adventure.